trying to steal my thunder. Okay, look. Think of it in this term for the non-architecture students in the class. You walk up to this thing and you're scared crudless because you believe that there could be these terrifying beings, right? And you're confronted by this massive wall, and in front of that wall are all sorts of stuff that's scaring the hell out of you when you're looking at it. The walls are huge. I mean, compared to you, the walls are 10 times higher than you. Okay? Or 7 or 8 times higher than you. If you want to get an idea of that, here is a person. Okay? Here, you can see that the little animal critters that are out in front in the forecourt are taller than you. So you're looking up at them. They're up here. They're huge. I know what it's like to look at an animal that's up here because I've been chased by a buffalo. And as a grown man, my knees were shaking looking at that thing coming at me. So this has this sort of mystery of these big things, right? Now take a look at the next thing. Now you can start to see that you were on the outside in the open, and then you came in under this lowered arch, and then you walk out into this open court, right? This idea of taking space and then compressing it down to make sure that you feel you're crossing across this threshold, right? And then opening up into another space that is defined. It's defined by columns all the way around you, right? But it's open to the sky. And so once again, you go from outside, you walk through a wall, through this lower passage, and then you come out in this court. It's defined, but it's open to the sky, so the space opens up again. Then you step further forward and you go up under the roof of the peristyle court, right, the edges of it, and you come up steps. And look what happens to the ceiling height as you enter the peristyle hall, or the hypostyle hall. It drops down, right? So not only is the floor coming up, but the roof is coming down. Okay? And then as you progress further forward, the space gets even more intimate when you get to the sanctuary, and even lower when you get to the back altar area. Okay?
What are those rooms in the back?
I'm not sure. Some of the stuff was location for storage of things for the afterlife. Okay, and then there were also places where they kept things for sacrifice. So I didn't get a clear picture of what every room that's in there was used for. Yes, Jamie.
Can I? So you see it on the pylon, the 2 units in the front.
The pylon, the 2 units.
Pylon.
Yes.
So it looks like there must have been a bridge gapping them. I mean,
I believe there is. I have a picture coming up of it.
Why would they have that if it's not like a fort? I mean, it's not like a battle kind of, like a castle.
Because you're trying to take somebody from this open sky arrangement and bring them under this low portal, right? And then take them out into the peristyle court where it opens up again, but it's closed on the sides. Frank Lloyd Wright did that. You've visited some of Frank Lloyd Wright's spaces. He took and he brought you in under a low thing, and then it opened up to a higher thing, right? Higher space. So again, there's this linkage, there's this continuity in architecture throughout the ages, and there are the things that are basically built upon and morphed over eons. Okay, so I think I beat this horse to death. All right, so here is the temple at Karnak, and you can see it's going to have the primary components again of the pylon, which is the entry facade, the peristyle court, which is the open courtyard, the hypostyle court, and now with this image you can start to see, right, that you've entered into this field of columns. One of the things about the hypostyle court that's not in this presentation, but I think you guys should understand, is that the peristyle court was referencing the daytime sky. But when you entered into the hypostyle court, it was painted with the night sky. Okay? And so there was this symbolic representation of day and night in the process of the temple. Okay? And then finally, you see an image of the actual sanctuary of the temple at Karnak. So one of the things about the pylon is that it becomes the prototype, right? It becomes the thing upon which a lot of the Western tradition gets founded on. How many of you guys have visited some of the missions? Anybody ever visit the missions when they were in high school or something?
Maybe.
Or some of the older churches that are here? Didn't they a lot of times have like 2 towers with a door in the middle?
Yeah.
2 towers, a door in the middle. The pylon. The pylon becomes this linkage to Western culture. Western culture references as it moves forward. Okay? And as I mentioned earlier, the pylon was usually higher and wider than the actual temple that was behind it. Okay, and notice the statues up in the front of that one. The peristyle court, just to give you some additional images of it, was open to the sky and covered around the sides. Okay, and then you have the columns, the very closely spaced large columns of the hypostyle court. Okay. And remember, that was completely enclosed. What they were trying to do is to basically create this sequential progression. Okay? Here's some actual images that give you a sense of the scale and just how many columns might be in the hypostyle court. Yep, they're monsters. All right, and so we're sort of getting close to finishing. Okay, so a different sort of place, and I don't have a map to show you for this one. I can take you back, but you guys remember that the Nubian desert or Nubia was even further up the Nile, right? Okay, so take a look at this sucker. Now, how many of you guys watched the first Transformers? Second Transformers? Oh, I thought it was the first. See, I'm not as big a geek as you thought I was. What's that mean? That means fight on. No. Fight on?
It means up yours.
Yeah, it means so.
The 2 fingers that go up like that, if you say that to somebody that is wearing these 3 letters, that means fight on.
But it usually means peace.
Unless you're a USC alumni, right? Or you paid for a USC alumni. Then it means fight on. Okay, sorry, we've digressed again. See, it's that ADD that kicks in. Here we have Abu Simbel. And Abu Simbel is up river, okay, from Upper Egypt. And so this was actually used in that movie. What was it? Transformers 2? Right? Whatever, something like that. You're not going to start saying Star Trek stuff, are you? Nanu nanu and all that, whatever. I don't know. All right, here's a daytime view of the thing. Okay, and a view of it in plan and section. You can see the size of the statue in the front. The statues in the front they're just huge. Okay. You can see that the plan has an axial alignment. The building was designed and cut into a stone wall in such a way that on February 21st and on October 21st, the sun would penetrate all the way to the back. On those 2 days, the sun would penetrate all the way back and light the statue at the very back. And that's this image that you see here. Okay? So, kind of, again, an interesting sort of thing. Looking at the inside of the temple, this kind of gives you an idea of the statues and what it was like entering it and going through the progression. You can see how far back it is, right? And you start to get an idea of how hard it would be to get the sunlight to go all the way back down. It'd be like trying to get the sunlight to come through the window in the hallway here and having it illuminate the other doors at the far end, right? It's only going to happen for a very brief time, and it has to be exactly aligned to the sun at that exact time of the year. So, one thing I want to bring up to you guys about Abu Simbel, which is kind of an interesting sort of sidebar, it was completely taken apart and moved. Yes, it was completely taken apart and moved.
Ooh.
You're like, who the frick would move 30-ton blocks of stone, right? Well, you know, politicians and military generals aren't always the most thoughtful of people, right?
Yeah.
So this guy came up with this idea, and I'm sure that in that person's mind, the idea was, it's going to be good for the people, right? We're going to stop the Nile from flooding and destroying all the land, and it's going to let us build condos right up to the edge of the river. No, just kidding. But they built this thing called the Aswan Dam. The Aswan Dam is massive, okay? And it created Lake Nasser. And Lake Nasser essentially would have flooded the location of this. So when they built the dam, I think it was in maybe the 50s or the 60s, there was this international outcry, right, that you guys were going to destroy all of these temples that were close to the river, because this lake water was going to rise and fill them up. And so many different countries, including the United States, contributed to move these ancient artifacts far enough away from the lake to where they wouldn't be flooded. So in this picture, you're seeing, right, pieces of those elements being moved. All right. Just an interesting little sidebar. Okay. A couple more images and we'll call it good. This is another structure that was in that previous map called the Ramesseum. All right. It's another one of the temples. It looks like everybody's lost their heads here. Off with their heads. And finally, I'm going to close with the Temple of Luxor. All right. And this is kind of a beautiful kind of nighttime shot of it lit up. So. Oh, somebody's phone is talking to us. Okay, so I think we're going to stop here. All right, and what we're going to do is switch off to. I'm going to print and pass out some drawings for you that I want you guys to use to develop overlays of trace. So they've got to be lined up, right? That are going to show axial arrangements. Okay. All right. Escape and stop.